Good evening, London of News here in Melbourne, and my good friend Sally. We're having a chat with the Tyrant finder. His name is Chris, and my son Dominic, which is in Kidderminster. And we had this a couple of days ago, but I had a computer problem. I had to rebuild it, so we're trying to adjust the settings. So, thanks for watching London of News. Sign off, and it's goodbye from us. I'll catch you again next time, and please subscribe. Bye.
Boomers. Let's say hello. Good evening to Boomers. How are you?
Yeah, good. Good evening, everybody.
London News. Good evening, London News good morning, actually, to you, sir. It's very early in sunny Melbourne.
It sure is. It's 7:10 in the morning. I'm normally asleep at this time, especially when you go to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning. Yes, good morning, everybody. Looking forward to having a good chat and information on the most important thing in the life at the moment is common law, God's law.
It goes back to biblical times, doesn't it? It's I think it's in the state that we're in at the moment, because I don't know if you've heard, in the UK, because we've come out of Europe, we are now rewriting our Human Rights Act, and they are looking at to giving judges rights to see if we can have rights or not, whether or not you're a good person. Is they're looking at a good. Sorry, I see you cringe when I say person. I have to refer to the person because that's what they're looking at as that. The person.
Also, what else they're doing? They're doing a few other things all in the background as well, besides the Human Rights Act.
Well, first of all, you got to forget acts, because acts is something that takes place on a stage, and we have actors. Solicitors act for you; they don't work for you. And Hollywood is full of actors, so the whole world is full of actors. All corporations are all acting for you. So the word person is the first thing you must get rid of if you want to be a living man or a living woman. So get rid of those, because the law, their law, which is fictional law or statute law, only applies to the living dead. Those people walking around with coverings on their face these days who are completely hypnotized, they're all persons. But men and women who have amiable rights, God-given rights, don't have to heed, in numbers that is, all the statutes. It only applies to the dead.
It most certainly does. Let's bring Dom in, because Dom's got knowledge, and Dom is obviously in the UK as well, and Dom's related to you, isn't he, Dr. Barry?
Salutations and hello.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Oh, absolutely smashing tonight, yes. Lovely to be on the show. And hello, everyone else. Boomer, Dr. Barry. There we go.
Evening.
He can call me Daddy on the show if he likes.
It's not Mr. Andy, he's Dad.
It is, Dad, isn't it? We have to go back to basics, isn't it? Because it goes back to, I remember going to school and we had a verse from the Bible there, and it was what we now class in present time the golden rule. Therefore, what you desire for men to do to you, you shall also do to them, for this is the law and the prophet. So that, to me, related to me, if you're bad to others, they have the right to be bad to you. So you should live have morality, and live your life as a good person, good human, good man, good woman.
It's hard to get used to it, isn't it? It's really
very hard when you wake up.
Yeah,
well, you're brainwashed. Like, the thing is, even the children's cartoons have got persons on it. They never ever talk about a man and woman anymore purposely.
Why are you not taught about that in the school? Because we're taught, it goes back, we have Bill of Rights, Magna Carta. People say about Article 61, the right of lawful rebellion. But I was led to believe that would only pertain to the barons, made up of the barons. It only protected them. They could lawfully rebel. It didn't count for living man or woman.
Yeah, they could afford to rebel because the king had an allegiance because of the money aspect. So the barons were very important to the king.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But how do we get out of it? Because you know, we're living as two. We're living as a person within the birth certificate, as I see it, and we're living as the human man, living woman. How do we get back to only being living man?
Well, it's just like when the Christians turned up, probably a big group of them turned up in Rome, and they said there's only one God when there were many gods, and they built the Colosseum to take care of some of them. So it's an uphill battle because Britain got rid of common law, not got rid of it, but put it on the back foot in the Act of 1887.
Yeah.
87. So basically, common law goes back to Alfred the Great after he made peace with all the Normans, the Vikings, that is, and the records they started keeping records in common law after the Battle of Hastings when William the Conqueror came in. He brought in a Jewish community, and there were great bookkeepers and bankers. So they wrote the Doomsday Book and was published in 1085. So the records of common law were kept, and common law, there's a lot of paperwork in common law, and they can't really make money because it's slow, and you have to have a jury. Even if it's a case where you steal someone's bike, you end up before a jury, and that wasn't very profitable for the Inns of London when they started up the other laws. And of course, when money gets poured into medicine or poured into the law, it becomes dominant, and it just overrules common sense.
To me, fundamentally, common law, the law of the land, air, and water, is injury, harm, and loss. You know, you mustn't injure anybody, cause anybody any harm or loss. You know, if you live your life by those three things, it covers you in every aspect of life. But when you go to these lower courts, when you are tried by a bench, to me, that is what they call summary only judgment, whereby you are guilty before you are even walk into that building, because that is a place of business, a place of revenue collection, and you know, you will never ever win in a lower court, and that's why most of the offences, they will be kept in the lower court. You will never get to Crown Court only on indictable only offences. I think every offence should be tried before my peers, from stealing an apple right away up until murder.
Correct. And when you accept the summons as an invitation to do business on their vessel in dry dock, so when you enter their vessel in dry dock, you become salvage. So you're guilty before you go. But there are some paperwork which is on our website, the CLCI website. It's not up. I haven't put that one up yet, but we will put some conditions of acceptance that summons up, and that really changes everything. I don't know about the UK, but here it does, because we take their jurisdiction out from under them and place it into our jurisdiction, which we've experienced they can't handle, and the case never goes forward.
No.
So I find that with a common law court, I guess the difference is that in a common law court, it's a level playing field, and you're not like in boxes like your statute kind of court. I guess that's the difference. Barry, would you say?
Yeah, well, that's right. Well, the common law, you see, basically what we do, and it all goes back. You've got the common law court in the UK, and which John Smith was running. He done very well, but 4 years doing it now, it's really, I think it's growing pretty hard on it. It's a very hard thing to do because a lot of work's involved. So John doesn't seem to do any courts for the people anymore. Well, we do here now, and we've got like 4 nurses. I'll give you an example. The CEO of the company, the hospital that sacked these 4 nurses, they will receive a summons in the next couple of days to come to mediation. They come to mediation, which we have a camera running. If they turn up, that sometimes they're too arrogant, and as we're in kindergarten in relation to common law, they won't turn up. So they'll get another summons to come before a jury of their peers. And the last cases, we had 2 cases recently. We had a hall full of people. There was over 200 people. We picked 2 juries, 12. And then when the jury come up with a decision, guilty or not guilty, if it's guilty, and they make another decision to find out whether to create a penalty, and we base that on reality, like from the statute system, points number. So say it's 400 or 40,000. The CEO gets fined $40,000 for the damage they've caused. Then we then take a lien on their property, and once it's published, it becomes law. And the grand jury we use here, which I don't think the UK doesn't have grand juries, but the Americans do, the grand jury is 23 people, and they make a decision, and they're held in secret to indict. In other words, there's a case to answer. So if once it's done lawfully and simplistic, it's just a very simple process. And common law is common to all. That's what it basically is. Simple.
I think it's just a case of getting momentum, getting people knowledgeable, getting them to know about common law. That seems to be the problem, doesn't it? Because we're dealing with persons and we're dealing with common law, which will help those persons. But it's just trying to get that message across, creating the momentum to try and get everyone on the common law side. And that's the tricky bit.
Well, it's working here now. We're getting.
Can I ask for everybody out there, what's the advantage of anybody using common law? There you go.
You want me to answer that then? Well, okay. Well, common law is the law of the land, and here in Australia, people think it's related to the Constitution. The Constitution was wiped out. Well, it's not wiped. It was unlawfully ignored or removed by these criminal politicians by the Act of 1986. Whitlam before that tried to get rid of the Queen, if you know. He's half succeeded. But common law, see, the people are the power, and this is the message we got to get back to them. If we vote these criminal politicians in, they're supposed to become public servants and carry out the will of the people, and that's how it was way back before they become corporatized. Now they just the voting is he who counts the vote, Starling said, it matters. So they've turned the tables, they become the power, the people have become so subdued and institutionalized in their own ignorance that they won't stand up. And there's an amazing amount of people who are waking up now, and you guys, everybody there is probably doing it. More people you talk to, the more reality sets in, and we are the power. And I think Canada is going to demonstrate that people are the power, and the government will back down, I hope. And the same thing here in Canberra. We've got thousands and thousands of people in Canberra down there, and the corporations definitely will get worried because, as I said, it's all's going to change by the end of March. Well, it was parallel up until 1887 when they decided money was more important than law. So it's up to the people. People have forgotten, and they've been brainwashed and hypnotized for so long now. They don't know what it's like to stand up and say enough is enough. And until they do that, and it's up to us to keep on plodding in there and doing it, and eventually we will get the results. But the people, it just has to go back to the men and women of the UK and Ireland and England and Australia, wherever the case may be, just to say enough is enough, and let's get on with it. Let's get these people in before the people as a jury. People, I don't know what that word. You like that word over there?
Yeah.
Men and women.
Yes. One can't do it. It's got to be many, isn't it? It's got to be everybody that does it. It's the only way you're going to beat them is everybody. Power to the people. Power in numbers. Knowledge is power. And we had 2 years in lockdown where we could have been researching what it's all about. Because everything they're doing now, it has a cause and effect. They're doing it for a reason.
Yeah, well, there's enough veterans in the UK and enough veterans here, which I'm a veteran as well. I'll give you an example. I went into the RSL, which is Returned Soldiers organization, right, to pay my fees. And I was dying to go to the loo, and they wouldn't even let me go into the loo. You got your hand up. Do you want to say something there?
No. I'm a veteran too. Look.
Oh, yes, right. Good on you, mate. Well, anyway, to cut a long story short, I said, I'm dying to go to the loo. Can I pop in? The receptionist, which is a guy, he says, no, you have to show the fact that you're vaccinated or not. And I said, get the manager. So the manager came out, so a video. She said, oh, no, the policy. And I said, really, that's really fantastic. I said, well, you will receive a summons before the end of the month, and the CEO of the RSL as well, which we will do. And we'll go on from there because we've got to make a stand. We have to stand up and take these people to task, because Hitler's men said, just carrying out orders. Well, these are all part of the chain. So we hit them where it really hurts in their pocket, because we can take liens on the property if the jury decides that's the case, and that's the penalty. Person, and if you can show me any law anywhere in Europe, I don't know about France, but anybody here where a man or woman found committing, no, it's not. It's a person. So you remove yourself from that situation. I do IDs for people to get them out of that situation. They have an ID, and it says they're a man or a woman. End of story. But remember, if you do nothing, you can expect very little.
If I remember right, didn't you, Barry, help out some people in Victoria with no parking fines?
Oh, well, what we did in Victoria, the first court case we had in Victoria, and this is, I forget about because we were in lockdown, the most lockdown city in the world. We took the CEO of Fines Victoria. They're the people who collect the money for the courts and for fines and stuff. And they had a computer on the 13th floor in William Street that was the court. It was called the infringement court, but it was just a computer. So it came in, boom, boom, sent out the notifications, you owe this, and every time it sent out, the price went up. So the jury convicted the CEO in his private capacity as a living man, if you like. We delivered the court case, the court paperwork to his office. They signed for it, accepted it, and they shut the infringement court down that week. So now they're using the magistrate court, which they should have done in the first place, to hear the fines and stuff. So they got rid of the computer, so they obeyed the common law. And then their local rules they had in the library. So the police just went away and he went in. But it's probably educating people at a lower level, but we need to get everybody together on the same page and take these people to task and put an end to it once and for all by a jury of their peers.
I watch, auditing police stations. I mean, there's quite a few, isn't there, on YouTube? And yeah, they're entertaining, but it does seem to be escalating. There's more sort of jumping on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
Once you get your prime auditor, we all know who that's going to be, right? Your prime auditor. Then you get someone else a day later, or even on the same day, will go along and test the police just the same as they have.
But do you find, with UK police, I treat them as two different people. I treat them as police officers and police constables.
Constables, yeah.
One police officer is a policy enforcer. A police constable exercises common law. He's for the people. He protects the people, to serve and protect. I find now that UK police are more taught towards the police officer than constable. They don't work for the people. They don't know that anymore. So I think it's very much so that we should educate police officers.
Sure, I agree with what you say there, Chris. I'm tending to find now they're sort of more protective towards the corporations than, and I do actually find as well that on the whole, the British constables officers, they do come across pretty good. They're well trained, politeness, and they're well trained. Let's just say that they come across programmed as such in being nice. And then obviously you've got your TSG, haven't you? They're a different bunch altogether, aren't they? You know.
They're just paid thugs, aren't they? They're not either police officers or police constables. They are riot enforcement. That is all that, they're completely trained completely differently, and they're not trained in, common law statutes and acts or anything like that. They're just trained to use a baton and smack people. It's basically very much so that we have to educate the police. And we seem to are able to sue the police, as in you when you take an action against a police force, you take the action against the chief of police of that force. You're not actually taking the action against the human, whereby every human should know you have the right to take action against anybody that does you harm. You should be doing that.
It's the CEO of the actual corporation, isn't it? That's the person that needs to be have action taken upon.
Well, it's like if a police officer police constable lays a hand on me and it's illegal, then I should be able to take the force he works for to court, the corporation, and I should also be able to take the human, the person, as you want to call it. You know,
I find it funny illegal. I always think of that as a poorly bird. I like the word unlawful. That's the word I like to use.
How you discriminate? How you actually work it out? You're either talking to a policeman or a policewoman or a police officer. If you're talking to a police officer, it's corporation.
Yep.
And that's, you got to separate it at that level. So if they're officers, they're corporations. If they're men and women, policemen and women, they're police, real police. And all constables at law have. I was I joined the Special Constabulary in March 1966 after leaving the army in the UK. So I was a special constable over there for a long time. I lived over there. So it all goes back to men and women and corporations that become corporatized. And I think they seem to be reversing back a bit there now. But the police in England were the kindest police. We used to play with the kids in the street, ride their bikes, play football with them in the street. Everybody loved you. You went in for more cups of tea in one street than you could handle. And that's how it should be. Police, as I said in my last video on YouTube, I said police should be like they are. Real policemen and women jump into rivers. They pull people out of buildings and stuff. And that's what the police should be, have so much pride in supporting the community rather than what they've done.
I guess they use these certain countries perhaps as test platforms, like Belgium and, as you just mentioned now, that particular country, to see how things happen and perform.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of people.
Well, I thought New Zealand and Australia were the test ones.
Well, I thought Australia myself as well, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've got, see, wherever the Labour Party is, they're part of the Democrats. They owned and controlled by the Democrats, and they're the worst. They destroyed Australia in general. It just can't carry on like this anymore. And nothing's changed since Adam and Eve. There's been power grabs all along, wars all along. So really, we're just another generation of being mugged.
Your daily dose of fear.
Yeah, your daily dose. That's what they control you by. They control you by fear and suffering. That's it.
Right.
That's it. I got no fear in me. I know exactly what they're up to. You know, if you know what they're doing, it's easy to see everything they do.
Yeah.
You know, to get that process. Know the process. Know the end game. Then you know the process. It's as simple as that.
It should get men and women. Look, you just have a gathering, not a meeting, no committees or anything. You just a gathering of people that have had enough is enough, and they want to get a remedy for their pains and suffering. See, common law goes under a very basic. It's called humanity, caution, and prudence. If you look up each of those words, humanity, caution, and prudence, it says like no harm and all that stuff. But there's a little bit more to it. But you're responsible for the consequences of your action. That's the end game, if you like, in humanity. So if you look up those three, humanity, caution, and prudence, it explains the whole thing in detail. Sure. And that's all you're going to do. And there's no reason why anybody can set up a common law court with a group of people of the same mind. But unfortunately, you'll always get somebody who's there. They're institutionalized in the statute system, and they keep going back to it. Walk away from it as a living man or a living woman. You don't even have to word the use living. If you, as Bill Turner went into a courthouse and he had this argument with the magistrate, and to prove he was alive, he took a mirror out of his pocket. He hauled on it. It fogged up. He said, "If you can get the image, which you're actually trying to communicate with, to do the same thing, I will contract with you." So it's that simple. Just get out from under the umbrella of being a person. Get your common law courts going, elect somebody to run it, and then when you get the case going, swear them in, swear in your deputies, wherever the case may be, or peace constables. They've done over there a few, and do it that way, and then you can send out your summonses to the men or the women, the CEOs, in their private capacity. You can't do private capacity in a statute law because they only deal with the dead.
So let's all say
big protests in Vienna and
say good evening to Frank.
Good evening. Good
Abend.
Good evening, everybody. I hope my mic is working.
Yes, it's all good, mate. All good.
Yeah, but let me know, because as you know, sometimes it starts to wobble or something.
Stop giving it alcohol.
We'll let you know, Frank. So we haven't spoken in a good few weeks. So
Yeah.
what's been happening over in good old Deutschland?
Yeah, in good old Deutschland. Same shit, different day. We have we have not yet the problems like the people from Austria have, and I'm very sorry and disappointed that Ben did not answer my messages. But as well, I think because he's on protest marches every weekend, and today was very strong in Vienna, and he was on the street.